Sounds good.
All right, warm welcome to everyone, and thanks for joining in today to our next webinar at Social Beat. Warm welcome to Pravin Shekar. I'm going to give you a quick introduction. Pravin is an outlier marketer and a recruiter. And for people who don't know what a recruiter is a person who tells anecdotes in a skillful and amusing way. And I'm sure he's going to give us a lot of stories today. Pravin is also, he's an unconventional marketer, and that's his forte. And when the world moves in one way, you need to move another way, and that's Pravin's philosophy and work style. And he's, of course, author of 3 books and recipient of the American Marketing Association's Emerging Leader Award. He's an alumni of IIM Indore and chairman and CEO of KRIA, which is India's leading healthcare market research panel. And he also runs a Outlier marketing consulting firm called Crux 108. He's also an angel and social investor in Can Do, which is a BPO for physically challenged, and Kase, which is an artisanal cheese making entity, which I often use in Chennai. So whoever is in Chennai and Bangalore, I think it would be great for you guys to try this out. So warm welcome, Pravin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Great. So we're going to start off, Pravin, by, I think you are a raconteur. We have to start with the story. So it'll be great if we can start with the story of your life and we can begin from there.
Let me start off with asking each of you a question. Have you ever been involved in an accident before? Nothing major. You're driving a bike or a car and somebody just bumps into you. What happens? Your blood boils, your blood pressure shoots up. You just want to get out of the car and knock the other person out. You can't do that. We have not been brought up that way. We try to resolve, take photos, but that incident stays with you for a long, long time. You keep analyzing it in your mind. If only I had not started at that time, if I had started 5 minutes later, if I had been a bit more careful, that incident lingers on. It might have just been a small scratch on your car, but you just can't forget it. You are in a grumpy mood the whole day. Your wife knows, your friends know, your colleagues know, and you keep talking about it for some time until it slowly dies away. But the scratch on your vehicle is a constant reminder. Why am I talking about it? That's something that happens to us. We have learned to move on. There's no way we can roll back time, go back and remove the scratch, regardless of how much ever you use your saliva or whatever you want to cut that scratch is going to be there. But this particular incident is from our happening. We have been a part of it, or we have observed, and a whole lot has happened. We've got to learn to move on. So one of the key aspects of my talk today is to move forward. Things that have happened have happened. Now, I'm not being philosophical here. I'm a practical realist, if you can call me that. I'm a marketer, which means we are duty bound to be practical. We can have our flights of fancy, but that is the incident that I want to start off with today. All through my life and career, there have been quite a lot of changes. Who hasn't had changes? Come on, you've had a whole lot of changes in each of our lives. Well, I'm going to ask the bunch of you, have you ever fallen in love? That's the biggest accident or incident that can ever happen. But we're still alive, living, surviving, participating in that. But jokes apart, there is a need for us to continuously evolve. Sometimes we change, sometimes change is foisted on us. And if I have to give you a picture, there are those in scenario 1 who crib and whine. Scenario 2 who say, yeah, this is what life is, this is fate, this is destiny. 3, where people say, hey, listen, this happened, but I'm going to continue with a whole lot more bigger. And then you have the 4th pillar, where people say, hey, this happened, this is an opportunity. What can I do? How can I leverage? And my career, if you look at it, has moved from that pillar to the 4th pillar. But every once in a while, you tend to slip and move back a few pillars until the people around you and the friends and the mentors kick you right back onto the 4th pillar, which is what is necessary for us to look at. So I've had both personal and professional, quite a lot of setbacks. Every move has not been a pivot, and every pivot has not been planned. But before I even get into it, when both of us had a chat yesterday, Vikas, it is absolutely important for all of us to understand what is a pivot and what is not a pivot, because pivot is the new sexy word in the lexicon. What are you doing? I'm drinking tea. Achha, what are you doing now? I'm drinking coffee. I've done a pivot. I said, that's not a pivot. Understand what a pivot is. Oh, I was doing this traditional business. Now we've gone online. We've pivoted to move online. So please understand, folks, that is a natural progression of your business. If your business is not online, regardless of COVID or not, you should have planned for the business to have a significant online component if it fits in. You can say, I'm a manufacturing company, but that is your client spent his or her time. Therefore, there is a natural progression. A natural progression is not a pivot. Right? A natural progression is not a pivot. Moving online is not a pivot. So you need to be very clear about it. Now, what then is a pivot? And I'm going to throw a question. All of you, please answer in the chat. And this is, you got to guess the company. This company started off as a dating service, a video-based dating service where I can record what is it that I want in my ideal partner. And then I went ahead and put it through, and this never took off. Which company am I talking about? We've got one answer from Nikhil. Nikhil, you're wrong. Yes, Shruti, that is YouTube. So they pivoted from being a video service for dating to be a video posting service for a whole lot. They already had the strength. They had to shift the paradigm to go ahead and do something else for a different target market, leveraging what they had. The second example I have, and there is a gift waiting for all these people who participate. This company started with a goal to create a camera platform with a cloud portion for storing photos online and smart cameras to connect with PCs. Which company am I talking about? Vishal, good answer, but wrong. No, I'm talking about the Android operating system, which is how it started to compete with the Microsofts and the others, and all that came later. But this was the genesis. And then they pivoted. Now, let me throw in a very interesting question. This is, you can call it legend or a myth. And from the world of market research, this is a standard question. But from the world of marketing, it's a story. What are washing machines used for in China? You would have thought I'm going to say Punjab. No, I'm talking about China. What is a washing machine, at least in rural parts of China? What do they use a washing machine for? And the same thing they found out in Mongolia as well. In Punjab, let me now bring it back because we haven't. Fermenting alcohol, Ravi, you've got a phenomenal imagination. I want you in my. Rajib, yes, in Punjab, they use it to make lassi. No, they don't wash clothes and then make lassi. Alternatively, it's used only to make lassi. In China and rural parts of Mongolia, in the farming season, they use it to wash potatoes. So they dig it out and then they have to wash it by hand. And how they found out is a lot of complaints were coming during harvest time. And they go and see the roots are clogging up the outlet valve. Right? So the company went back. I already got the infrastructure, new client who's got a different use. This planned and came out using design thinking with a bigger outlet valve. Slightly modified. But these are examples of pivot. Please don't say you're pivoting unless there is a significant change. Now, you just don't pivot for the sake of pivoting. You pivot when there are triggers, when things are not going fine. When there is too much competition or too much noise, when the number of clients you have is decreasing or you don't have any new signups, that's when you realize that, hey, this is what I started the company, but it does not seem to be working the way I planned out. So you take a step back, you make an analysis and you make a hypothesis. Maybe this is why it is not working, but these are my strengths. Now, can I test my fundamental hypothesis about the product or strategy with a newer clientele or a newer geography? And that forms the part. What is the pivot? Now, if we take my elbow, the elbow can pivot, but the elbow is my strength. I'm not able to lift. Can I pull it up? That is an example of a pivot. Can your business do that? Shifting gears, well, that is what I am talking about here. And I'm going to give you some examples. I will save it for the Q&A, but it is necessary for you to figure out which column are you in, the whiners, the doers, or the dreamers. And it is necessary for us. And I'm an entrepreneur, folks. I love starting newer initiatives. There are at least 2 or 3 that I'm looking at starting out of this COVID nonsense. Because we have run out of excuses now. We have to go back to the innovation platform, figure out what our strengths are, and how can I leverage it for a newer product or a newer service or a newer geography, but a fundamental shift in what I am offering. Let me give my example here, Vikas. Last 3-4 years, I turned into a professional speaker. I was charging a few $1,000s per speech, and every month I was out there speaking. Now the speaking business is practically zero. And for the foreseeable next 6 to 12 months, it is zero. But how do I pivot? What is it that I'm doing as a speaker? I'm influencing people, I'm educating people, I'm evangelizing, and I speak about outlier marketing, ideation, and Jugaad innovation. So my speaking is just one way to do that. What else? Moving online for sure. Writing, I love writing because I have to write my speeches. So what can I do? I have written 10 new speeches, which are coming out as 10 new different books that are going to come out now. So what I'm doing is, it's a mini pivot. I'm not changing the part. My evangelizing and talking to people and talking to them about marketing continues. But what I have found out is marketers have a lot more time to talk now. My clients have a lot more time to talk now. So I'm interviewing them. I'm finding out what are the pain points. I'm finding out what are the micro marketing strategies that they are currently using, what worked for them, what did not work for them, which is feeding back into my stories, which is feeding back into a whole lot of what we are doing. So my professional speaking business at the moment is dead, but my evangelizing, my networking, my connect is still ongoing, right? And therefore, I call it a mini pivot because I have not changed my business model extensively. I was talking face to face, now I'm talking to you this way. But I am noticing that some of the people who had no time for me earlier have all the time for me now. So I'm
like you have for us now.
Yes, absolutely. So I am building relationships. I am investing in evangelizing, spreading the word, and sparking those ideas so that however long this lasts, we come out with something new, something creative that we can go ahead and talk about. One of the large FMCG companies in our region, their revenues were down by a few hundred crores. In 21 days, from thought to hitting the shelf, they came about using their machinery with hand sanitizers. 21 days from thought to execution to hitting the market. That's a significant pivot. They were not in the hand sanitizer market at all. And because there is a demand, they quickly pivoted. This is a pivot because what are the auto companies doing? Nobody's buying cars these days. You're not traveling. You're not going anywhere. They are using the existing machinery to come up with ventilators.
Absolutely.
That's a pivot. That's the pivot. So what are you folks doing is something you will have to think. And best time as any for us to sit and reset our life, career, and business. This is what I have been doing. Is this what I'm good at? Is this what I am passionate about? Is this what I want to continue? What else can I do to reposition myself? So those in the digital space have to look at personal branding. Personal here is individual as well as company. Venkatachalam, I'm duty bound not to tell the name of the company because I'm in the business of consulting. But I can nod my head. Right? So let me give you an example here. All of you are here. Therefore, you are interested in digital marketing. What is it that I can do? I can go back and visit my personal brand. What is that personal brand? Is this something that I want to know as? Vikas introduced me as an outlier marketer. Because I want him to introduce me as an outlier marketer. What would you like to be introduced as? So marketing, if you ask me, I give a lot of speeches to people who say, Pravin, can you dump it down to laypersons? So for them, I say, when I know who I am very clearly, that is marketing. When I tell you who I am, that is advertising. And then what you tell others about me is my branding. Right? Simple. Now, you and I can go to war on that, but this is good enough for people to understand, especially those who are new to the world of marketing. But once that is done, why can you not look at pivoting right now? Is this where I want to be? Is this what I am known as? And that's a trick I learned. The best way for you to check if your personal branding is working is to listen when you are being introduced to someone else. That is the true power to check if your personal branding is working or not. This is the best time as any for you to focus and look at shifting gears. Now I'm going to close with shifting gears and pass it back to you, because 21 days was the first lockdown. So Lata Vijay one of our founding members of the Professional Speakers Association, said, why can't 21 of us, first come, first serve, jump in and say something about pivoting? What are you doing with your career? How are you going to deal with it? And I have to appreciate Lata, because that was a shameless move I would do as well. 21 is a lockout, therefore 21 speakers, 21 stories. And this was her second book after her previous book, which was 21 Difficult Conversations to Have. That is a shameless tie-in. But when you look at Shifting Gears as a book, 21 days flat from start to finish, we had the book on Kindle. In 5 days, it had 5,000 downloads, a bona fide bestseller. That is something we are proud of, as having pulled it off. All stories. I'm a marketer, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm doing a series of writing. I exercise with the quad. And for me, everything that they talk about resonates back with me into marketing. So if they say, this is how you need to do, this is as simple as you need to have 2-3 anchor supports in the ground when you are going to jump. What do we have as marketers? What are our anchors? What are our supports? So to me, inspiration comes from everywhere. And right now I am ready to absorb and act on it. I wasn't active on Medium. Now I'm doing 2 or 3. I'm not getting any claps, but this I'm doing for a longer term to train myself as a writer, to put that part through. And this is something that each of you would need to look into. What are you taking out positively from this lockdown? Right? So Shifting Gears is the name, because we have to shift our gears. We have to move into a completely different orbit. So ask yourself, which pillar am I? Am I a whiner? Am I a doer? Am I a dreamer and doer? And that is absolutely important. What are my strengths? Can I write it down? Is this a core strength? Is this marketable? Can I go ahead and do something where I can dream, defy, and do? Well, there are those who lament and there are those who load it up. Who are you? As a marketer, as an entrepreneur, whatever I do needs to have a return on investment, whether it is awareness or it is revenue generation. And at the moment, my focus and my request to each of you is, what are you pivoting for? Why are you pivoting? Who will benefit out of the pivot? And is it going to lead to revenue generation? Is it going to lead to customer acquisition or retention? So there has to be a method to the madness. If you are going to go ahead and pivot, why, when, what? Why? Business is stagnating. The clients are confused. Remember, we are still, regardless of all the automation, a people business. We sell through emotion, hire the connection. And when there is ambiguity all around, no decisions are going to be made. So how can I enable my client to work and sell better? I run a company called Kriya, which is Kriya Plus is into healthcare research, one of the very active young starts here. My clients are brand managers in pharma companies who commission the research. And the research comes from, we collect the data from doctors and from pharmacists and nurses and the like. We have the largest validated database of doctors, nurses, pharmacists in India. But at the moment, they do not know what is going to happen, etc. So what we are doing is coming out with content specific to these doctors, saying, how can you market yourself now? How can you add value now? we are coming up with books and content for them. This is aimed at ophthalmologists. So we have found out the pain point of ophthalmologists and we are giving it to them free. We are helping them do a better business because this is the time for me to strengthen my relationships. You can say, am I a publisher? I'm not a publisher, but I publish this because it benefits my customer lifestyle journey. The entire journey, if you look at it, I've got several players in procurement, brand manager, marketing officer, CEO, intermediaries, the management consulting companies, us, doctors, nurses, pharmacists. How can I add value to each of these? And so for a short term, if I have to pivot and become a publishing company, I will do so. And that is what we have become. This is Katha, my publishing division, which is purely for Kindle based and simple publishing. For everything else, I love Notion Press, guys. They are my publishers. I go to them for the solid serious books. These are also serious books, but very micro targeted books. So I have become a publisher in this lockdown, which I call Lockdown Looty. But with that, I give it back to you, Vikas, for the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pravin. I think that was a great intro. And I think definitely all of us are also trying to figure out how do you use the disruption that's happening to leverage the opportunity that it creates as well. And I think, we'll discuss more on that. And as I was reading the book as well, which is on shifting gears, I think your chapter stands out really, really well. And I think you've done a great job of doing that. I want to quickly quote from what you quoted Bob Dylan in that article where you say, he not busy being born is busy dying. I'll repeat that. He not being busy born is busy dying. And I think it really sums up what you were just saying in the last 15 odd minutes in terms of saying that this is, if there was a time to change, if there was a time to figure out where you should add value and change your business model, this is probably the best time to kind of do that. So maybe can we go deeper into that, Pravin, in terms of what is it that you are seeing from a change standpoint, be it from a product standpoint, be it from a brand standpoint? Because a lot of discussion that we are having with brands as well is that they are known in the market for something, right? And they don't want to lose that. So that's, like you're saying, that's their strength. But at the same time, they want to change their products, the services, how they want to be perceived in the COVID world. So how do you see that dilemma being played out when you're having your own business and also who you speak to?
Okay, I use the 4 pivots, which I learned from Vern Harnish, which is people, pivot, process, and price. Right? People is not just your clients, but it is the people around you, Vikas. And this is something I learned from my book coach Kriba, from my mentor JK, that you are only as good as the positive, creative people you have around you, which I get completely inspired. So who is around you? Who is part of your ideation team to plan for the pivot? The pivot comes next, but whom do you have? I'll give you an example here. One of the clients of Crux, who is an author, and she's a videographer, she came to us that all her proposals are getting rejected.
Right.
So what we are doing now in the next 1 month, coming out with her book called Rejected, with a compilation of all the 52 letters that she has, and making it absolutely quirky, witty, funny. And she is going to mail it back to all the 50 people, and I'm going to send it to a whole lot of people. The book is titled Rejected. We are producing it for her, saying, let us celebrate rejection. You got rejected, absolutely fine. When you win, it is going to be a 500,000 pound order, right? But no reason to sit and cry or lament. And she jumped onto it. Now we are going to come up with a documentary series on rejection, on people handling rejection, on the book, which is funny because you can write your own rejection letter. So I love surrounding myself with these people, Vikas, who spur you. And there is so much more that you can learn just by rubbing shoulders.
Absolutely.
Absolutely crazy. What do I have to do with a video documentary person? No, except that I want these creative people around me, right? I have a designer who's got his own company, but I love collaborating with him because he takes it to a completely different plane. So as an entrepreneur, if I'm doing it, bringing it up to here, he takes it to another plane altogether, right? So people, who are we surrounding ourselves with? The clients need answers. We have to provide answers as marketers. And to me, Vikas, all of us are marketers because we deal with humans, we solve problems, we make positive change happen. Whether it is in HR or operations or finance, it doesn't matter. So who are we surrounding ourselves with? Who are the people interacting with? And I want clients who will throw challenges at me because they know I will come up and ideate and come up with solutions. It's the same with Social Beat. It's the same with each of you here. So who are we surrounding ourselves with to be ready for the pivot? So if you look at my book, some of the successful pivots are planned in advance. That if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, you can call it a trigger, but it is completely different. All right. But because I have the creative strength around me, not me alone, it is my team, which is enabling us to go ahead. Therefore, we are pivoting. Right. And then comes, do we have the process to handle it? The process does not have to be extremely metric oriented. It is good to have it. But do we have a process whereby we can scale whatever we are doing? Right. And finally comes the price. Do we need to drop price? No. It is just a fictional myth. People will still pay for a need. If they say, oh, I don't have a budget, but now there is even more digital noise. So I have to work harder to get your brand to be made aware. Right. So the work involved is that much more. So some people drop the price, some jack up the price. So if you ask me, what do we do from a branding perspective? Look at it across these 4 pillars. And wherever possible, take the solution to the client even before they realize they have a problem. They will thank you for it. And for each of you listening in, you are a marketer. You have to add value. That's the only way to build trust, which means you have to do. You have to create solutions. You have to write. You have to, if I'm your client, you have to educate me. Right? And you have to educate me in my preferred mode. Now, let us say there are so many of you and you've seen me, you've seen the books behind. You're not just going to send something digital. You are going to send something physical because you know I love physical copies. So the need right now is micro-targeting, or what I would call micro-marketing. That the age of mass is going to be there, but I'm looking at building relationships.
And a focused approach. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
Great. So Pravin, I think absolutely right. And I think one of the things we've been looking at as well is how do you use the slowdown to also acquire new skills? And I think we're also looking at what are the new capabilities we need to build as a company. There could be new markets and new industries that we've never been into, but this is a great time to get into. Would love to hear your thoughts, and I think right up your alley.
So I have produced a music video. I'm in the process of launching a music meditation album for marketers. I'm in the process of launching 10 books. 3 are one is coming out this weekend. One is coming in 2 weeks. One is coming in 4 weeks. One is coming in 8 weeks, 12 weeks. And that is all being co-written, co-created with my colleagues and the people around me. Right? What do I have to do with the music video? Well, I'm a marketer. I need to display my creativity whichever way I can. That is one way. And see, this is why when you have people around you, and I'm going to tell you this, and this I'm quoting the words of Pravin Shekar, my book coach 5 years ago. When we embarked on a 100-day challenge to get my first book out, Vikas, the first advice he said is, pick and choose the people you want around you. Because there will be some people who will say, who is this? You and all are going to write a book. Cut these fellows off. You need critiques, but you need encouraging critiques saying, go, you can do it. And when you fall, I'll be there to hold. If you slip, I will be there to hold you, but I will tell you are slipping. So you need to have the right people you pick and choose around you. Together we will rise. So whatever I have, and I thank my wife in every single book that I write, because you need that support system. I thank my colleagues because they allow me to go ahead and do this. In some cases, they jump in. We have weekly meets, and in the timesheet, people can put in, I created memes in the company making fun of me and everyone else. So every Friday, we have a laugh. And this is official conscripted time for them to go ahead and fool around. Right? So I'm launching an online course again for free because, again, my branding is at that level. I'm not going to offer something saying 5 lakhs, strike it off, 500, strike it off, 99. No, I'm in the process of building relationships here. Right? You add so much value that business will happen automatically. Right? You can say, Vikas, and we sent a proposal which you recently won. We started our virtual summit business early last year, selling like hotcakes now.
Yeah,
we've already perfect timing. The book that's coming out 2 days later is a virtual summit playbook given free. You just come to my website, pick it up, step by step to do it, because my clients keep asking. I say, boss, go ahead and do it. So this is the time for us to look at creating. But I did mention process. So for my entities, we are going back and automating everything that we were doing manually because we didn't have time. Now we've got time.
We all have time, yes.
So we are investing a lot in project management software and developing certain aspects to go on top of it. So those are some of the positive things that we are going ahead with. My part is, because we have time and not much client pressure, business is business, you know how it is. So 5 of my colleagues are co-writing books with me. So net, I keep telling them clearly that after the book comes out, guys, you don't need a resume. You've researched, you've come out with the book, the company is sponsoring the book, let's go ahead and help me help you. Jerry Maguire words. So
absolutely. No, in fact, we are writing our 3rd book as well, which is going to be coming out in June mostly. So I think thanks for that inspiration. Definitely pushes us to move forward faster on that.
Yes.
Which actually brings me to a quote you had in your other book, which is Devil Does Care, which is a great book, by the way. I think for whoever's here, please do pick it up. You say you do a lot of things, but that's actually you being flexible, and it's not that you don't have focus. You do have focus, you do a lot of things, and that's flexibility. And I think that's something even maybe people over here are thinking that, hey, you're doing so many things. Shouldn't you pick a few things and go deeper rather than do all things? So we get to hear that flexibility piece. Yeah.
And this is a learning I picked up from my first mentor, who said it's all about perception. If I like you, I'd say, boy, you're so flexible. But if I don't know, he's so fickle-minded here. He's jumping from here to there. What does it do? So I decided that I'm going to do something that I love, which is creativity. Marketing, let me give you an example as a professional speaker. People call me saying, sir, I heard you. Can you come and give a motivational talk? I said, no, I'm not a motivational speaker. No, sir, but you can come and speak. I said, I will come and demotivate people because people are having inflated motivation. If it is marketing motivation, I'll come and talk. But if it's anything else, I will not come and talk. No, sir, we'll pay your fee. I said, I don't want it because I know what I am going to do. Anything in the outlier marketing, non-traditional marketing, unconventional, I will jump in. Anything others would just be an exploratory mission at best, where I try. Right? So the video launch that we did is again an exploratory mission. We hired a studio. We thankfully, just before this COVID nonsense came out, I had a musician come and sing because I put myself as a client. Do I like it? Do I want it? And who are the 10 around me? And for me, it is named clients. It is not a mass. And even if it is a mass, then it comes down to buyer persona. Frankly, because I spent quite some time, more than a decade in the north, and then I moved down south. And the first thing that hit me here is what I call the 4x4 talk. All those listening in, can you figure out what a 4x4 talk is? The right answer gets a prize.
Can I try? Is it a toilet? Or?
No, the 4x4 talk, which is very South Indian, but extremely Tamil Nadu oriented. Don't do anything because 4 people will say 4 things about you. 4 பேரு 4 விதமா பேசுவாங்க. So rather no, don't do it. So this is the biggest part. Who are these 4 people and why should I be concerned about these 4 people? Right? Karthik Raja, you got it. So I am not concerned about the invisible few people who are of no consequence in my career or life.
Absolutely.
If my wife, mom, sister, my close friends or my mentors say, boss, you are stretching yourself too thin, then I will have to think back and then say, oh, there's something wrong. If they are telling it, then perhaps I am stretching myself too thin. Then I have got this warning as well. But other than that, as marketers, it's our job to experiment because you never know where you are going to get the creativity from. Right? Therefore, I have something called as a commonplace book. when we were young, I'm probably older than you, Vikas. When I was young, we used to cut the newspaper articles on a particular topic and have a scrapbook. So anytime we needed something, we used to go there or go to the library.
That was your Google in some sense.
Yes. But now, since everything is there, I have got Evernote notebooks as commonplace books for each of the things that are of interest to me. I'm coming out with a book next year called Dialogue Diaries, the dialogues that have impacted me and therefore marketing. So I'm collecting all the dialogues from the movies or series or whatever I'm seeing. Likewise, for each of the aspects that are not yet in my core, that are still experimental, I have the commonplace book to work on.
Right.
And to me, everything is integrated, Vikas, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a marketer, I'm a speaker and experimenter. So every topic that I speak on will become a consulting or a service or a product. So right. To me, it is all connected. So I go and speak. My speaking is lead generation. So they come to me for Gyan. If it is 15-20 minutes Gyan, I give it over a cup of coffee. Beyond that, it gets into consulting or workshop or masterclass. So it's not just me, it's the company that is coming through. So whatever you do, you've planned for it and it is going to more or less fit in. And happily call me fickle-minded. If you are in my close circle, I will work on it. If not, carry on, guys. You don't know the larger picture. You're a blind man touching an elephant and saying, this is how it is.
Absolutely. So, no, I think that's great. And I think that ties in very well with trying to figure out what is it that you need long-term, as well as what you need short-term to succeed. And I think, often, even as businesses, you're so focused on doing what's required for this quarter or this month, forgetting that something you need 1 year from now, you need to start working today, which might seem like you're doing a lot of things, but actually the focus is still very much absolutely there. Absolutely. And I want to go back to the raconteur and storytelling, right? You've been a storyteller, and even the events that you have emceed that I've been part of, you have been a storyteller all the way through. Even your book has the Gorilla Gurus and the Outlier Owl, and I think, it's fantastic to see how you've transferred those learnings into storytelling. So how did you get that storytelling into your life in the way you do everything? And why do you think that's important for anyone in any business? Because I know that's how you think about storytelling.
So I have been speaking for the last decade and a half, professional speaking only for the last 4 years. And because as marketers, you will realize that there is a generational shift every 5 years. And even as a brand, individual as a brand, you have to reboot every 4 or 5 years. Otherwise, it gets jaded and boring. And 2015, I found out that my style of delivery, I got bored. See, beyond a point, once you've given 2-3 speeches, you customize for every client, but it's on autopilot. It just comes. You don't have to follow a particular part. So I realized I had to reboot. And it's a very pertinent question because 2015, just before the floods, there is a World Storytelling Institute right here in Chennai. And I attended a 5-week course by Eric Miller, where he made us write stories, where he made us listen to fables. And it was a very effective course. And the stories I were writing that November, December 2015 came out the next November as a part of the Devil Does Care book. So I was researching to tell the stories. You can't use any props. You can't use any aids. You have to bring the audience into the story.
Bring it alive, yeah.
Yes. So that was a significant moment where I started collecting stories and telling a lot of stories. And that reboot is necessary.
Absolutely. And finding time for that reboot from your life is also very critical, which I think
because
is a great time.
Either we do it voluntarily or it gets done.
Absolutely.
So I'd rather do it voluntarily.
Absolutely. The other piece that we've been discussing with brands also is that a lot of them say, hey, I want to pivot. I want to relook at my business model. I want to go digital. But a lot of what I do is still traditional. Like, let's say it's a manufacturing setup.
Right.
And I have to still physically manufacture. And I think it'll be great to hear your thoughts on what are the things that a traditional business in the real world needs to do today when you can't even access that physical world today, right? What is it that those kind of companies and brands should be looking at today?
Right. I will give you an example of clothing.
Apparel retail, yes.
95% go behind fads. Fads are very momentary, like the fidget spinner. It had its life for a year.
And it's
I
gone,
can't
yeah.
start. I can't start a business on that. Slightly longer is fashion, and then beyond that is style, which is pertinent for us as marketers. So if I'm looking at pivoting, is it a short-term fad, or is it going to last for a longer term? That is something that I would look at before I decide to pivot. Two, why am I pivoting? Because the business, as in the current sense, is not working. Maybe because my model has become outdated, or the customers have moved on and I have refused to move on with them.
Absolutely.
Right? And that is something that is of absolute importance as to what is the current need. And if you look at it, same automotive segment, or you look at it from even a pharma segment, they have to forecast 5 years ahead as to what the trend is going to be like.
Absolutely.
With all the ifs and buts, and plan for those scenarios. And it's a very pertinent question. I'm going to take 2 minutes to talk about the 4 economic recovery scenarios that are there. So when I am planning about a pivot, where am I today? Where is the future likely to be? We have fallen. Revenues have fallen. It is just so it is fallen. If there is a steep increase, that's called a V curve, which is the best case scenario that we can expect. Or people are saying it's going to be a U and then it will finally come up. Or it has come down. The minute Tasmac opens, there is a up. They close Tasmac, it goes down. Then it goes up, which is called the W scenario. But an entrepreneur like me, I'm planning for the scenario L, where what I used to charge $5,000 is down at $1,000 or $500. And it is likely to remain so for the next 12 to 24 months. What do I plan for? So my pivot has to take this into account, that it's not like people don't have money. They have lost the thought of spending money.
The appetite of spending is going to change.
Yes. So what is that change? I will have to forecast. I will have to do a test. And my request is, don't put everything into that pivot. The pivot, you can try it out with 50 clients. If you are a manufacturing company, 50 is a large number. If you are a B2C kind of a company, look at 100, 150 as a test market to see if the pivot is working. 2, observational research. Go and find out how are people using your product. Are they using it at all? Or washing machine type? Are they using it for something else? That is a pivot that is ready-made because the audience has moved to doing it something else. What cannot be pivoted? Take the case of Saregama music here. What are they doing? It is just an old radio box playing digital music that I will get out of a laptop or a mobile phone.
Absolutely.
But my house has it, my mother-in-law has it, my mom's cousins have it. That is a brilliant case. You can't say it's a pivot, but it is a completely different idea and execution. What is it that you are bringing? That is plain vanilla music here. It has only got 5,000 songs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much lesser than your phone.
Yeah, but it takes people back. Right?
And it has a certain emotional element to it which you cannot recreate on the phone.
Yes. So when you are pivoting, thank you for helping me out. What is that emotional connect? Is that a need for your product? Right? If there isn't, then you might have to look at a completely different business model. Just don't call it a pivot.
Absolutely, which you clarified in the very beginning. Absolutely. I'll also try and intersperse some questions now. So I think Vinayaka has a question. Which brands, in your observations, are pivoting their businesses in this crisis, and which ones are probably not?
Oh, Mahindra is doing a classic job, but it's also to do with the leader who's clued in. Right? I'm sure the people around him are also there, but top. That's what they are doing. While some of the companies are clearly failing. They are in the first 1 to 2 pillar. How can this happen to me? Oh God. And you can pray. Right? I'm a marketer. I will pray after I do the work. Not doing anything. And so Mahindra is one. Kevin Kerr is doing a brilliant turnaround. Wrong word, turnaround. Turning or tilting the ship to go ahead to find out what is the need of the marketplace. Right? My neighborhood ice cream wala is doing a phenomenal work. I can't go there. He can come home.
Absolutely.
And that bell, when it rings, the bell, it rings. My kids are out there at the gate. I don't have a choice. Right? So these are some of the examples of companies that are doing it really well. Notion Press, my publisher, for example, is bringing the business home. Now, a lot more interaction with their project managers, a lot more depth into the structure relating. Not that they didn't do it earlier. Now I don't want the book to release now. So they are going ahead with doing a phenomenal value addition there. Running short story competitions, making a whole lot of people sitting idle authors. Everyone's got a story in. So Notion Press is doing a phenomenally brilliant job throwing open short story competitions, coming out with books. Right? So all these are companies that are not waiting. They are changing the wind themselves.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point you brought about waiting, because that's something we're still seeing, right? I think, unfortunately, because there was lockdown 1, then lockdown 2, then lockdown 3, I think people kept feeling that once this lockdown's over, it'll come back to normal, without realizing that it's going to be here for at least 12 months next. What's your sense? Because many people still seem to be waiting, thinking it's going to be fine from 17th of May. But it's not.
See, I told you I love collecting dialogues. This is a mint fresh dialogue that I saw the last episode of Mahabharata yesterday. Right? Only when this is told by Dhritarashtra that he was leaving for the forest. And then the learning was, for the future to come in, the past must vacate its place.
Right.
Look at the relevance to your question here. There is no new normal. Whatever happened was a car accident that happened. I'm not going to dwell on it. I will drive carefully, but I will also look at other modes to work on. So the past needs to give way for me to reboot. Now, let me give you an example, guys. If I have to review somebody else's work, and that takes me 5 to 6 hours, versus 5 hours for me to redo that on my own, which one would you prefer?
Doing it on my own. Yeah. Most people would prefer that.
Right? Then why are we continuing to build on the old foundation which is damaged? This is a chance for us to wipe it clean, just pick the positives, build something new on top of it. Right?
Yeah, they all need to wake up to it. Absolutely.
Yes. The past needs to make way for the future to come in.
No, absolutely. I think change is here and you have to make it happen.
वर्तमान को आने के लिए अतीत को बाहर जाना पड़ेगा. So this is the Hindi word of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Janvi has a question regarding her career. She says, I'm early in my career in design. Is experimentation into various spectrums important? Or should I pick a niche and go deeper into it? Whether do I need depth or breadth, which I think you briefly covered, but...
For somebody like Janvi, it is planned experimentation. Because you do not know which design resonates with you. Right? Is it fashion? Even inside fashion, what is it going to be? So you say, this week, I am going to focus on this, but with a clear outcome and a clear decision. Is this something I would... What are the 3 possibilities, Janvi? I hate it, I love it, and something in the middle. Right? I hate it is very clear. I like it is very clear. That somewhere in the middle is the danger zone. Now, I come from a background of market research. We have a movement called ban the 3. On a scale of 5, what do you like? 95% will say 3. Now, I say there is no 3. You can only say 1, 2, or 4, 5. You are forced to take a decision. Right? And I'm going to tell a story here, Janvi, pertinent to your question. This was my first trip to the US. I have a bunion in my feet. It's a family legacy problem that my big toe comes outside and it is very painful for me to get shoes. So ever since my sister moved, I used to get shoes from there. And this was my first trip and I was hell-bent on picking up shoes out there. My friends took me to a warehouse. Largest shoe store I've ever seen. Maximum I'd seen here was Bata. Right? So I went raving mad. I picked up 10 pairs of shoes. I spent 2.5 hours in that store. My friends still keep complaining and say, if you're going for shoe shopping, I'm not coming with you. But after that, I was completely confused as saying, what would I do? And that shoe guy taught me a lesson which is pertinent for you and for marketers. Wear one on the left, wear another on the right. Walk, decide then which one you prefer. I said, I like the right. Remove the left, put a new one. So by that process of elimination, I came down to only 2 choices, of which I picked 1. Right? But for that, I had to first I had to look at that and figure out all the designs that I wanted and my budget. First trip, guys, US dollar conversion. So all that factored in. But having tried it, it became very clear these 2 are the areas. And in your case, Janvi, as a career, will that career pay? Right? And the second tip I would give you is, every week when you complete, have a tangible, demonstrable asset that goes towards your portfolio. You can say the world is going digital, but let us say you are going in for a job interview. If there is something tangible that you can leave, and it so happened, I love cufflinks. And before this, I was in another call, and this is a cufflink made by a designer in some place in rural India, but she had come for an exhibit here. I fell in love with it. She's picked up an old 20 paise coin, stuck it together. This is a tangible demonstration of her business, which is called Kriti. I still remember it 2 years later. So Janvi, if you can make it tangible, nothing like it. We're coming out with books, yeah, but I'm also coming out with printed books. I'm coming out with infographics, bookmarks, you call it whatever, right? But you have the best possibility right now, because when I grew up, my choices were I could be an engineer, doctor, or lawyer. And as the first grandson in the family, my grandmother had decreed I had to be an engineer. Therefore, I'm an engineer. So when my father-in-law asked me, son, are you an engineer? I said, uncle, I hold an engineering degree. And I will stop it at that.
But that's every other Indian. So.
But Janvi, go ahead, experiment, but make sure you have something tangible to look back. Good.
Yeah, I would just add one line to that, Pravin. I think you should also find out what you love doing today, and see if you can do more of that tomorrow, right? And over a period of time, you'll realize you love every day of yours. Yeah. I think that's another way of looking at that. Venkatachalam has an interesting question. Basis, what do we do a pivot for new marketing campaign? Should it be for the same target group and product, or should we actually look at a completely new target audience as well?
It needs to be a fundamental shift, Venkatachalam. It can't be more of the same. You can't call that a pivot. So it has to be a new use for the product with your existing clients, or a different use for a different set of target clients. There has to be a significant change, a fundamental change. Otherwise, it's just another business model where you're copying from what didn't work and hoping and praying that it's going to work. It's never going to be the case. So, and look at it. The reason for you thinking about a pivot is not fashionable. It is financial, that it is not working. And therefore, you will have to really go back to the grassroots and do something different, leveraging the strength. A marketing campaign failing and doing another marketing campaign may not be a pivot.
Okay, perfect. And Dharan has a question. Is traditional B2B service business like accounting or staffing, is outlier marketing possible for these industries?
Ooh. Dharan, when the world is going one way and you see somebody different, he or she is an outlier. When, let us take one example here. Accounting services. Accounting services is considered to be stereotypical, boring. The guys do not involve, they don't engage, they are not transparent. To write down the stereotype, do things opposite, by default, it will happen. Accounting services being transparent, coming and helping me out without a sales in mind, talking to me about it, absolutely outlier. But look at it this way. If I do my job to the best of my abilities and the best way it can be done, then what happens? As an accounting services professional, my clients will seek me out. They will come to the company, but they'll say, no, you've got to work with, I want Pravin to work on my project. That is number one of marketing. Number two, by continuing to evolve, without realizing, I am becoming inherent to my client. So my marketing is working without me knowing the basics of marketing. The only thing I'm doing is doing my job so bloody well, thinking about the client in mind, that I automatically become the selected person, and that selected person is the outlier amidst the mass. How do I do it? I can advise the client, I can send him weekly newsletters. I can advise him on whatever new is happening. And let me give you one example here. I had a robbery in my house last year. And after that, we put the CCTV. The guy did a great service. We put the CCTV in the office. Then I had to shift houses. He did it. All through this COVID, you know what he's been doing? Once a week, he sends me what are the newer products in his line. And I have bought every single of those products. The remote thermometer for when the office opens up, a series of masks before masks buying became like this. Yesterday, he sends me a rent a laptop scheme. That is not his core business. He's only facilitating, but he's staying top of mind. And his logic is, sir, you will have capital issues right now, but OPEX, you should not have a problem. I am happy to rent these things. This is the cost. This is my range. I will deliver it to you. He will deliver it to my colleagues who are working from home. That has nothing to do with his business of CCTV putting up. Right? You can say he's pivoting. For me, it is relationship management. He knows my company size. He knows my need. And he is trying to address these potential needs of mine before the product becomes unavailable. My office is not open. My office is still closed the whole of this month. But anytime it starts, I need to have that thermometer. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not going to wait till the office opens to buy the thermometer. I buy it now. Right? I didn't buy it from Amazon. I bought it from this guy who sent it on WhatsApp and called up and said, sir, before it gets sold out. So Dharan, there are so much more that we can look at in terms of value adding to the client. Right? So I am appreciative enough that I am talking about it. Let me give you another example. A publishing company, it's called Exeter Pre-Media Services. They have a SaaS platform that they have developed called CreaDocs. And you can say, what is so sexy about publishing part? The CEO, Ravi, realized that he wanted a micro market. He did not want the whole wide world because they were shifting from services to products. Only the small to mid-sized clients bid in internationally. So what they did is they did the exhibitions, they did all the traditional stuff. It did not get significant results. It got leads. They didn't get converted. So they went ahead in one of their clients' conference halls. They curated and invited 7 of their existing clients, 13 of the prospect big size companies to come for a half a day, 3/4 of a day, knowledge session on the key trends in the publishing industry. No sales till the tea. This is London. So tea is a big affair there, afternoon tea. Just before afternoon tea, till then, they allowed the existing clients to bitch about the product, what was not working, what is good, what is not good, everything. Before tea, they said, now these are all the problems we know. This is going to be the solution. This is when it's going to get resolved. This is when we invite you to talk. The prospects loved the openness. They didn't come and say, we are perfect. They didn't try to hide anything. They allowed the prospects to talk to the clients. Within 2 weeks, 2 clients had signed on. Within 6 months, 4 clients had signed on. This is a clear case of outlier thinking. We try to say, hey, don't put this guy and that guy here. They'll talk about the product. They'll talk about the price. So in this case, they said, meet, talk, we are transparent, and hey, tell us and we will co-create the problem.
Oh, fantastic.
Right? So outlier thoughts are automatically there. We are preventing ourselves from actionizing it.
No, absolutely. In fact, because you mentioned staffing, I'll just want to add there, I think we've tried multiple staffing companies and now we only work with one of them. And the reason that is because they actually figured out what our problem was, right? They figured out that we are finding it hard to evaluate skills and we are rejecting so many candidates. So now they actually have a questionnaire or sort of an online test which they go through and all the candidates get a score. And based on that score, they shortlist and give us, and they have scores for various parameters. Now you can say I'm a staffing company, I get the CVs and give it, or can you help me solve my problem? And hence, we work with them month on month. So I think it really comes down to, like Pravin said, figuring out how can you do it differently and what is it that you can do to solve the client's needs, because that's what clients would love. Yeah. We are almost out of time, Pravin, but would want you to end with what are the quick takeaways for everyone here. And I know Beautiful. Your book, Devil Does Care, also has a takeaway after each chapter. So you can't finish the session without a takeaway. So over to you to finalize the session. With
I've got 3 takeaways for each of you. One, do a content audit. Whether you are a company or an individual, do a content audit. What do I already have within me, around me? What are my strengths? If it is a company, you'll have videos and articles and blogs and things written over the last 5-6 years. Bring it all out, compile, rewrite, get it out. If it is an individual, what are the strengths that I can use to add value and build trust? Takeaway number one, do your own personal or professional content audit. Two, what is the new use of my strength to newer set of clients? Remember the washing machine example? Using my strengths, using what I already have, I've done my content audit. Who else will have a different use? I will have to write that down and ask the people. They all have time. Ask them nicely, ask them in a personalized video. Think for them as to how they can look at using your product or service. And three, my 10, my 50. I'm not looking at mass here. I need to test the market out. So who are my 10 clients? And then who are my next 50 clients? I'm not saying prospects because I'm curating them. They will become my client today or tomorrow. And I'm going to quote saying, doing it slower is harder and harder is better. By slow, I don't mean stretching it, giving it enough time. Slower is harder, harder is better. And shorter steps when you pivot give you more balance. Think of it that you close your eyes and you're walking. When you close your eyes and you walk, you can't walk straight, but you keep shorter steps. That keeps your balance, tests the pivot, and then you take longer steps. So 3 takeaways: content audit, new use for newer clients, my 10, my 50. Any newer service, I only need 10 clients first, and then I will expand it to 20, 30, and 50. And this 50, when I take care of them, will bring in the next 50. That's what I have.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Pravin. I think perfect 3 takeaways. Lots to do. COVID is here to stay, but change is also here to stay. So keep changing and keep pivoting. So thanks so much, Pravin. It was an absolute pleasure having you, and thanks so much for spending the time with us.
Lovely.
And thanks everyone who joined us. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.